listening. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Tell It Like It Is podcast. I'm your host, Alexi Bailey, and today I have a very special guest, Alexa Fan.
Hello.
Hi, Alexa. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for all the technical difficulties and your patience. How are you today?
I'm feeling good. It's Friday, so thankful for that and looking forward to a restful weekend very much so.
I wish I knew what that was. Where do you want to start?
I like to ask a question whenever
Absolutely.
I'm engaging with someone. Tell me a yay of your day so far. So something, a highlight.
A yay of my day.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy. For me, I think this whole life is about living in syncing yourself, synchronization, and walking in your purpose and finding yourself and living your truth. And I feel like this really, really strong alignment right now, so in every step, every conversation, I just try to show up authentically. I told you, like, I had breakfast with Darlene. Great. Then I met Jacob, who I want to have as a guest. And I was like, you should be a guest. It's like, sure. It's like so effortless. Got home, got ready, and I'm like ready to jump into my car, not sure where my keys are. And I walk up the street and I see my neighbor, and he gives me a ride, and we're talking about the hurdles of raising kids. So we were just like, I try to show up authentically. The yay of my day is just showing up authentically to every moment and just being able to be there, Yeah. I think the hard part for me is, like, how do you make money doing that? Like, do you bottle it up and sell it, or like now people write a book or something, it's this monetization kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's a lot of good things so far in the day. Yeah.
You can totally interview me. It's fine.
I just love that question because I think sometimes we focus so much on the negatives that we don't realize there's so much good that happens in a day. Even if, like, I'll have a client at 7 a.m. and I'm like, tell me a yay of your day. And they're like, I just woke up. I was like, yay, that is great. You just woke up. A lot of people can't say the same, So
Right.
Just finding ways to, like, repattern our brain to look for the good in the days, I think, can really help us to have a more healthy and positive outlook on life.
Yeah. And I often, here's my thing, right? Like, I have millions of friends and I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm always the one, like, asking the deeper questions.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, here goes Alexi with these deep questions.
Yep.
And most people like small talk. So anyone who knows me well, they know that already.
Yeah.
And for me, it's so important because, you can be like, it's like there's a maze, and you can either try to figure out your way through the maze or just get complacent. So the deeper question helps you find your way through the maze.
Yeah.
And if I'm hanging out with 4 people and they're chit-chatting too long, I'm going to just, like, so the question would be, why is it so hard for us to find the positive in everything? It's because we're conditioned that way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, the introspective question is, like, where does that come from for you? And are you aware of it? Yeah. And, like, people are, like, paying you to train them physically, but you realize that I need to also train their mind and the way they see things.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the key to wellness and opening the door so that you can be in that alignment that we talked about. Because if your mind's not there, running on a treadmill, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I had a hard conversation today, actually 2 hard conversations with clients, because the nutrition is, in my mind, my 3 pillars that I focus on are mindset, fitness, and nutrition. Mindset is arguably the biggest pillar. You have to have that foundation before the nutrition and then the fitness. Most people focus on fitness first,
Right.
nutrition, and then mindset's not even,
Right.
excuse me, even in the picture. So yeah, the conversations I had today was just like, why are we not getting the results that we want to get? Why are we not losing that weight? And they might not want to say it, but that's why I'm here. I have to hold that mirror up for them and
Mhm.
show them this is the reason. And do you agree or disagree? And
Right.
it's a hard agreement, but I've just learned that I need to hold that mirror for them, because then I'm not doing my job, or I'm not allowing them to see the best version of themselves, because they get complacent. They
Right.
get, it's easy to skip a meal. But if you're skipping all these meals and you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs, it's not going to lose weight.
Right.
So yeah, just having that mindset component that you talked about is just so important. So important, because then the other choices that you make throughout your day are empowered by that thought process. It's like, oh, I'm not just running on a treadmill, I'm actually running towards a longer life with my kids. Like, it becomes something so much deeper
Right.
that pulls you towards it, instead of like, oh, I don't want to get on the treadmill because I don't really feel like it today. It's like you're running from pain. But if you're instead running towards something, if you're running towards your kids, you're running towards uh, your clothes fitting better, you're running towards those end goals, like, that's motivating. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had another talk this week with another fitness wellness coach.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna touch on a lot of the same things.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna like hit those challenging questions, right?
Yeah.
Because so much of what you do as a fitness wellness coach is therapy.
Mhm.
Like, I can show you all the squats in the world, but the reality is you're doing like a form of therapy. And ideally, I'm assuming you want them to have a therapist so that it's not like all falling on you.
Yeah.
So you should be doing your own self work, right? And I think you're also like an inspiration.
Mhm.
Because for me, I know exactly what to do, and I feel like I'm on top of like the self work and the nutrition and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But a coach can kind of hold you accountable and push you to like, what did you eat today?
Mhm.
And I don't have that. I do it to myself.
Mhm.
But on days when I want to give myself, you have to also be gentle with yourself too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
There's a
and
balance.
that's one of the reasons why I'm like, oh, I don't need a coach.
Mhm.
'Cause coach will be too tough. And I'm like, no, I can coach myself.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. How
Yeah.
do you balance all of that?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think a reason I didn't want to become a personal trainer for so long was because I had a trainer that was hard, like
Mhm.
drill sergeant type,
Mhm.
where no matter what I said or shared, it wasn't received with empathy. It
Mhm.
was just like disregarded,
Yeah.
and you have to do 50 burpees. I don't care how you feel. To the
Right.
point where my legs were going numb one session, and he was like, no, keep going. Like, that's damaging.
Right.
So that actually deterred me for years from becoming a personal trainer. Deep down, I love people. I love listening to people. I love encouraging people. Like, that's who I am. But I just couldn't get past that mind block of like, I don't want to be in a category with someone like that.
Mm.
So I think like how I balance it now is being the opposite of that, like finding that balance. So being compassionate, but also being stern and authoritative, because discipline is, in my mind, a loving quality. Like, if you're not disciplining your children, like, you are setting them up for failure.
Right.
So like, I need to be a little bit of a disciplinarian when needed, but I also need to give a lot more compassion than I do correction.
Right.
And that's how I balance it. And just holding that mirror up. Hey, you said this 10 weeks ago. Do you still agree? Is
Right.
that still your goal? Just reminding them of what they said, because it's not, I want them to get healthy, absolutely, but it's what they want more than anything else that I need to hold them
Right.
accountable to.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you always like, were you always like lean? How did you get started in all this?
Yeah, I was an athlete all my life. Soccer, basketball, gymnastics, you name it, karate. I did it. Like it was very natural for me to be an athlete. But all my life, I would say I always had a little bit of extra weight on me. Wasn't really visible to the naked eye, but it was all in my midsection. Like I just held a lot of weight.
That was a healthy weight.
What'd you say?
That was a healthy weight.
Yeah, so they said, but as I got older and those nutrition habits and my
So-
exercise went down
Right.
from not playing as many
Right,
sports,
right.
it started to accumulate more.
Right. Okay.
So in college, I think I was at my heaviest, which was like 35 pounds more than what I am currently. And it was like a wake up call to be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't really care what the scale said. It didn't at that point, it didn't determine who I was, or I didn't link it to like my worth, but I was like, this is strange. Like, how did I get here? How, like, what choices am I making? And just through the years, I had a really unhealthy relationship with food. Like, ever since I was a kid, it was always in excess. Like, it was always sleepovers. It was very social, but we would like binge eat together. It was, I'll grab the icing, you get the Oreos. Like, it was very comforting. And then it became like, okay, obviously this isn't working, so I need to stop. I just need to stop binge eating. I need to stop not eating altogether, but I did have periods where I would restrict heavily. Never diagnosed with an eating disorder, but had very disordered eating habits. Like for 2 weeks, I would eat like salads, and then the next week I would eat like fast food every single day, just very unhealthy patterns. And then in college, I feel like for me, college was an experience that I still don't think I've made peace with fully yet, to be honest. Like there was so much pain there for me because I found myself there. So I like had to face the things that I never wanted to face before in order to get healthy. And so, obviously for me in college, a lot of binge drinking, a lot of partying, a lot of like just trying to find myself in the wrong places, which led to, again, just unhealthy habits. And it wasn't until my sophomore year when I was studying health and exercise science, where I started to learn about wellness. I started to learn about like that bigger picture, that it's not just about how I look. It's not just about how I feel, but it's my entire life as a whole. And I feel like it clicked for me that year. It's my sophomore year. Like it never clicked before. I was like, you hear about, your mental health, your physical, your emotional, but seeing it in this like graph on the board, I still remember the exact graph to this day, just seeing the they have 7 different dimensions of your wellness. And that for me was like, oh, there's a roadmap. Like this is how I get to living a healthy, balanced life. Why have I never seen this before? Or maybe I have, but I would say that's when it started for me. So I started changing my habits to fit my overall lifestyle versus I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to lose 10 pounds. It became holistic. And obviously it took years to have healthy habits and eliminate the old ones or really switch the old ones to the new ones. But over time, it just became a natural part of my lifestyle. And that's when the weight came off. That's when the weight stayed off because it was just day-to-day normal habits.
What did you study in school?
Health and exercise science at Rowan University.
That's what you wanted to study when you went in?
It kind of was like what's closest to sports that I can make a career out of. And my sister also went to Rowan and studied that first. So I was like, I'll just choose this major. Like it was kind of not too much intentionality behind it. I was like, whatever, I'll just go study.
Did you play college sports?
Nope. I just did like club, soccer, nothing serious. Yeah.
Why didn't you?
Getting towards the end of my high school career with sports, I just lost the love for it, to be honest. Politics of coaching and things like that, just stupid things, to be honest, that changed the game for me. Changed the love of the game.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what was your childhood like?
I would say it was, how do you sum it up? Like it was
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Monroe, New Jersey. Yep.
Is that south or north of here?
Terrible directions. I think
20
it's-
minutes from here, somewhere.
Yes, 25,
Yeah.
one direction. It's like towards Plainsboro, towards Cranberry,
Okay.
that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, both parents were very present, very healthy, very loving. I have a sister who is my best friend, but we weren't always best friends.
Just you and her?
Yeah, just me and my sister and I.
How much older is she?
She's 3.5 years older than me.
3.5.
Yep.
Like half. You're still.
Hold on. Yep. But yeah, no, I would say childhood was really good. A lot of experiences, like our family.
Suburbs?
Yep. Yeah, we
Yeah.
traveled a lot.
What did your parents do?
My mom worked for Johnson & Johnson.
Okay.
She's in the finance department, and she just retired from there like 2.5 years ago after
Okay.
40 something years.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
That's a relief when your
Yeah.
parents retire, I think.
Yeah, it's a real joy to celebrate her too. Just
Yeah.
like she made so many.
She survived,
True.
to make it to
Yeah.
retirement, to be, own your home. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we have it's like you won.
Mm.
It's like you're playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
No one ever wins. You won,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your dad?
My dad, I would say he had a lot of trouble finding his path or career, jumped around a lot from job to job. And I know that a big driving factor for him pushing my sister and I so hard in our education was that he didn't want us to end up
Mhm.
like he did, but he eventually went back and got his college degree. I'm super proud of him for that. But yeah, growing up, I know that was a really hard thing for him, like looking back to just see him struggle with
Right.
not finding his
His
purpose.
growth.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So is he retired? What is he doing now?
Yeah, he's retired. I mean, my mom was like the main income in our
Yeah, yeah.
household, so my dad kind of like supplemented that
Yeah.
that income. But he now works part-time at a golf course. He loves golf. He does
That's
that.
cool.
He's a
Yeah.
huge people person, and so
Okay.
is my mom. Like we love people. So any chance my dad gets to be interacting with people, he's happy.
Yeah.
Like people call him the mayor because he just everywhere he goes makes friends
Smart.
and loves people. Yeah.
That summarizes me right there.
Yeah.
I just, my thing is, I feel like there's a lot of good people who are going through their journey of life by themselves.
Mm.
And even if they have a therapist or whatever,
Yeah.
or a family who loves them or friends, there's this you kind of go through your hurt or your struggle privately.
Mm.
I think that's kind of normalized.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to put their guard down, be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people talk about, well, when the last time I did that, this happened. So we kind of live in a world where everyone has experienced hurt and everyone's walking around with their guard up.
Yeah.
And we're not really even though we're at an arm's length from each other,
Mm.
we're in our own little cubicle dealing with life. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and somehow that affects me.
Mm.
And when I walk around as the mayor and I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel that cubicleness.
Yeah.
And I invite people into my cubicle and I try to step into other people's, and sometimes it gets messy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're in a stage in life that's meant to be messy because we still haven't dealt with a lot of these things. Like you said, those 7 paths of wellness weren't taught to you before you got there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a finance major, guess what? You didn't get that class. So there's someone who you went to school with at Rowan who was a finance or some major who didn't get the path to wellness that you got, who graduated, has been working for the last 15 years, and he's going through hell, and he's married and he has kids. His wife's dealing with him. She's going through whatever. The kids are we know it's happening. And it's happening everywhere. Right. And it's this kind of thing where you don't ask, don't tell. And, if you're lucky enough to have some kind of relationship, it's just this kind of dance. Where, and so to me, I'm like, all right, I see it, you see it. Yeah, we all agree. All right, let's put our pieces on the table. Let's talk about it. Like, whoa. So I've always been the weird guy who's like bringing up these things and encouraging people to be vulnerable, making myself vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I get mixed responses at different times, and I'm okay with that. But I think someone has to bring it up. You bring it up, then you kind of chip away at it, kind of thing.
Yeah, bringing awareness to it, because some people, like you said, that finance major has never had someone ask them the question of like, hey, what is your purpose? Have you thought about that? Asking those deeper questions. And I think even I agree with you, like in the sense that you feel like you're like you want to bring that deeper conversation to the forefront. You want to open that conversation.
Right.
I'm very similar in that way. Like I just believe that everyone's here and has a greater purpose than just clocking in, clocking out. And like, even if it's a small sphere of influence that you have, you still can make a huge impact.
At least 10 people.
Yeah. And even if you impact one life, like that's powerful. But yeah, it can be super uncomfortable for people too, especially like if you grew up in a household where emotions weren't celebrated or talked about or encouraged. That can be a huge trigger for people to shut down, immediately. The minute any like emotions are talked about, it's just like stonewall. I don't want to get hurt. Anytime I cry, I'm told I'm too sensitive or X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I think people haven't healed at all from, like you said, childhood, maybe wounds or traumas.
For sure.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, you can have two you and your sister grew up together, but you're completely different people. You're born with separate issues, you're born with separate styles, and something happens to you like 3 or 4 times during childhood, and you bring that into adulthood.
Yeah.
And then if it happens 2 more times in minor ways, you kind of have now this way of being, and that we're all dealing with that on some level, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So really if you ask me, what I want to see is, I want to see some kind of revival, a consciousness revival, and I don't know, you can kind of say it's grandiose, but I do think we have the potential.
Yeah.
Just people showing up for each other, dinner parties, barbecues, pool parties, trips, beach trips, going out to dinner, and just really setting that intentionality.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most recent conversations I had was with Jonah, who goes to my church.
Okay.
And it's a non-denominational church. And I was saying to him that there's this expectation that the church embodies the space for that. Do you think so?
I do, in my experience, but I'm also aware of the reality that many are not that way.
Many churches.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I know in my upbringing, I was raised Catholic, and I did not experience that at all in the Catholic faith and in my experience of the Catholic faith. But then when I went to college and I was really doing a lot of soul searching, I went to a non-denominational church, and that is where I saw community, real community, authentic community, people that said, hey, here's my stuff. I don't know what to do with it. Can someone pray for me? Can someone be there with me and walk through this? Or they don't even ask that, but it's like, here's a safe space where you can share those things.
Right.
And I've just seen love in such a tangible way through church community in a way that I've never witnessed in any other place in the world. So I think that's where I know it exists and I know what it looks like now. And so I try to really embody that everywhere I go and be that safe space.
Yeah. So you experienced this church at Rowan?
Yeah, down by school was my first experience. And then Princeton Alliance Church was the second place.
Yeah. Well, give that church by Rowan a shout out.
Oh yeah, True North. True North Church. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So after that, when you came back home, you found Princeton Alliance? Yeah,
I was doing a little bit of church hopping.
Yeah,
because I was so sad to leave because I really found a home there near Rowan. And then graduated and everything. And a friend of mine from high school reached out and was like, "Hey, I saw you're sharing your faith and stuff. I didn't know you were Christian." I was like, "Yeah, it's new. I'm figuring it out. I don't know what it is really." And then she invited me to Princeton Alliance, and they have a young adults community.
Mm,
And that was arguably one of the most transformational communities I've been part of.
nice.
Drug addicts, people just out of jail, Christians all their lives, like everyone came together, and it didn't matter your past, didn't matter your background, no judgment. Like that was my experience. And I was like, this is powerful. So that I'm really grateful for that community and continue to be grateful for that community.
Nice.
Yeah.
When did you start there?
2016.
Okay.
Yep.
Where is it?
Schalk's Crossing Road, where the McDonald's is, the Panera. There's like that corner, Panera, Five Guys.
Plainsboro?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
adjacent
okay.
to the Panera, so it's kind of tucked back, but it's a big building.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You haven't invited me yet.
You're always invited, so I apologize if I haven't, but yes, you're always welcome. And that's another thing. When I was in again, I like to say my experience with the Catholic faith, because this isn't everyone, but it was like a close to your chest, like you don't talk about your faith. It was just like, I do this. It was like a symbol of like virtue. It's like, I'm Catholic.
Mhm.
But what did that mean? What
Right.
It didn't hold much weight to me, because I was Catholic, but I was doing things that
Mhm.
because I thought God wanted me to or needed me to be perfect. That was my thing. I was like, well, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm sinning all the time, so I'll just turn my back. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what happened. But luckily I found, the truth that he loves you no matter what. And so I forgot where I was going with that. You asked me something.
I said you haven't invited me yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah, like even a part of that community, like people of all different religions were welcome. It wasn't like you have to be X to enter the store.
Yeah, yeah.
Because God was Jewish. Like why do we as, X, Y, or Z religion think that? So that was really surprising to me too, and something that just made me like, that's interesting. Okay, there's something here, let me explore it. Um,
Yeah. So you think church is the answer?
I don't even think it's church. I think it's a community that, for me, just like walks out Jesus's life, like walks out his way of living, because I mean, he was the only person on this earth that was without sin because he was God. So like, what did he do while he was here, and how can we invite him into the places where we are now to make an impact?
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. I think I grew up Seventh-day Adventist,
Okay.
and that's Protestant
Mhm.
basically in the Caribbean.
Okay.
When I came to the States, I continued in Seventh-day Adventist, which is on Saturdays, right?
Okay.
They go to church on Saturdays. And the version that I went to was always mostly Caribbean based,
Mhm.
right? And I think there was there was a focus on the Bible.
Mhm.
There was a focus on the expectation of God as said through the Bible.
Mhm.
And I think we spent most of our energy on that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we were a community. Yes, if someone needed something, but to me, there was just this constant coming back to the book and coming back. So we spent a lot of time in a theoretical space.
Mhm.
And I think that people need more time in the practical space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to sum that up. Yeah. Yeah. I think like I said, I don't think you don't have to go to church to find an authentic community.
Mhm.
I think that they exist elsewhere, but for me, that's where I found it. So I think it's like and it's just people that are living authentically, people that aren't afraid to share their crap, aren't
Yeah.
afraid to be real with each other.
Well, what kind of relationships do you have there?
I found my husband there.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a huge part of my life, obviously meeting him and meeting.
See, go to church. You're looking for a
Bottom
husband.
line,
Yeah.
that definitely wasn't why I was there. He says that kind of was the reason he started going back, which is fine. Like,
Yeah,
where are you
absolutely.
going to find people with similar beliefs, similar values, morals? Like, it makes sense. Um, but I didn't believe a man like him existed because of my
Mm,
past.
right.
I did not think it was possible for me. I didn't think they existed. And if they did, I didn't think that they would ever want to be in a relationship with me because of my past. So he was a true blessing and gift and taught me more about myself and what I'm worth than any other person in my life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why did he stop going to church?
No,
Because
he didn't.
you said he came back. That's the reason he came back to church.
Because he was away at school.
Okay.
But same thing. He kind of did his own thing in college, did a little bit of soul searching, felt like he was raised Christian, but he just never explored God for himself. It was
Hmm.
always, you're supposed to go to church, you're supposed to do this. He never had that true relationship with God until college, where he
Got it.
started exploring it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what kind of relationships do you have in church? I mean, are they at your house?
Yeah.
Are you like what's? Give me the juice. I want to
Yeah,
hear it.
the tea. Yeah, we a few of our best friends are from church.
Mhm.
People that will go over for dinners occasionally.
Couples.
Yeah, couples, singles. Yeah, our pastor is single, and we have her over, and we all kind of do life together. That's the big way we
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah. I'm
life
hearing
together.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm totally looking for that,
Yeah.
And like if I were to find that tomorrow, I would be like trying to, I don't know, like I keep hearing this voice of people saying, why are you doing this?
Mhm.
So my thing is that I feel like I see a lot of people who are wandering around and I just feel this sense to like say like, hey, come over here, come over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll love to visit your church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always
Do
welcome.
you feel like recruiting people? Do you feel like let people find it on their own? Like how do you do?
Yeah. I just kind of share my life, if I'm having conversation with someone and God
If
plays
it comes up? Yeah.
a huge part in my life, or if I feel like that person really is in isolation and they need, most of us we need community. Like you said, we're not meant to live in boxes or
Mhm.
cubicles,
Right.
but we've kind of found ourselves there and think that we have community because you're so connected, but you don't really know that person well on social media. Like you don't I used to think like everyone on social media was my friend, but I'm like, "What? I don't actually know anything about them. I
Right.
don't know their childhood. I don't know their passions. I don't know, there's so much I don't know." So yeah, that's kind of is really just inviting people in if it comes up naturally. I'm never gonna, force it down anyone's throat or understand some people have been hurt by the church, which is totally understandable. I know I
Mhm.
was. So sometimes it's like, God does that work on his own and behind the scenes. But I'm very open about where I go, why I love it, what about it do I love, the people. Yeah. Yeah.
Now most of the people that are coming to your house that you're closest to,
Mhm.
would you say they look like you? Like what's the
Yeah, no, that's a great question. No, no, the church itself is very diverse. So I think actually Caucasians are the minority at our church
Mhm.
between Asian Americans, African Americans, Hispanic. There's a really big mix, and I think that was another huge change for me was seeing the beauty and the cultural differences and not being afraid of them or fearful of like not knowing enough about people,
Mhm.
but leaning into those differences and getting to know them.
Right.
How was your childhood? How do you celebrate X? How do you celebrate Y?
Mhm.
Like just what kind of music do you listen to? There's just not being afraid, where I think before I was like, I wasn't sure how to engage with people that were different than me, but the church is like where I learned how to do that better, I would say. And sports was huge for me. Like that
Yeah,
was, once you find like a common ground, I feel like that just brings people together to let their guards down and not be like afraid to engage or ask questions. Or,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, so I do think that there's a huge fear or
mm,
hesitation for talking and getting to know people outside of your demographic or that you're used to,
yeah.
right? Where do you think that comes from,
Hmm.
or for you?
Yeah. There's like this quote that just came into my mind. I think it's from like sales strategy, actually. It's like, I like you if you're like me.
Hmm.
And so it's about relatability, building rapport. But I think that's what just came to mind. It's like a familiarity
Hmm.
that you feel you have with someone that looks similar to you, versus someone that you don't interact with as much. You feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know much about this person. So I'm gonna get scared and I'm gonna move away from them, which isn't, that's not how it's supposed to be. But I think you asked something for me, but what did you ask? Just keep going off
Um,
on tangents.
what about, no, that's fine. What
Mhm.
about high school? What was the demographic in high school?
It was a mix. Yeah, I would say Monroe has become a lot more diverse than it was when I was there.
Hmm.
Um, but predominantly Caucasian, I would say. Yeah.
And the people who were minorities, and you didn't interact with them as much.
No, I wouldn't say that, because like sports, I think that is where the common ground really was. And then, developing relationships through pasta parties at sports events and just like stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So you felt like you were always multicultural, you're saying?
Yeah, I would say so. I
Yeah.
think I think it's grown as I've grown as an adult, because it takes more intentionality to do. I've
Yeah.
noticed if you're not surrounded by different cultures, you kind of do have to put yourself in places where you can learn and you can be open and you can develop relationships with people that are different than you.
So I worked at TD Bank,
Mhm.
and you basically walked in. I think you needed like a new debit card or something.
Probably. Yeah.
And that's how we met.
Yeah.
We started talking.
Mhm.
You worked at Lifetime,
Mhm.
and my wife was a big Lifetime. So I'm like, oh, you work at Lifetime, Darlene. And you're like, "I know
Yeah, I
Darlene."
know, Darlene. Yeah.
And we were just like, and even in that initial conversation, there was a certain element of you were very comfortable, friendly, and relatable.
Mm.
And also your faith, I don't remember if it came up or I
Mhm.
just felt it,
Mhm.
or I don't know. But I walked away feeling like that's a good person who
Mm.
has good energy, who like is a Christian. I
Mm.
don't remember how, but I think I walked away with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's commendable,
Mm.
right? And I think if more of us were walking around with that aura, we would be one step closer to what I'm talking about, the community and that revival.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think the next step for someone who has what you displayed in that moment would be an invitation.
Mm.
So there's a certain level of uncomfortability with that. There's a certain level of, 90 something percent are going to say no.
Mhm.
But I think we have to embody that if we really want hope to abound,
Mm.
and constantly, if we're going to shift, I feel like there's a dark cloud, that exists over our world.
Yeah.
People are staying in their boxes.
Mm.
White people are afraid to talk to black people.
Mm.
Black people feel like white people don't fully care about their struggle.
Yeah.
And if people were actively, hey, hi, who are you? Oh, great. Oh, and just like, hey, do you want to come to my church? And
Yeah.
yeah, we're doing a movie night. And
Mhm.
just like, if everyone was doing that, do you think there would be a shift
Mm.
authentically,
Yeah.
over time, little by little, and
Yeah.
not just trying to convert them,
Yep.
but like fun stuff. Hey, it's a barbecue.
Mhm.
Come on, we're gonna have ribs and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I go for the ribs for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That means you're gonna be spending extra money
Mm.
and giving away food,
Mhm.
but people are gonna be like, yo, this person's not trying to whatever, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I think inevitably it would be a natural result. I do, because you're leading with love.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing, is like, what am I trying to do? Like, what's my intention behind this? If it's to genuinely get to know someone, let them know that they're safe and that they have a place where they can come and be welcome. Like, I think that is like, that's what we all need. That's what we all desire deep down, to like be seen, be heard, and to be loved. But it doesn't happen because I think you mentioned the media before we started this conversation. And like, yeah, it's divisive, in my opinion, extremely divisive. And that's why I stopped watching it altogether, because I'm being told to fear people because of what they look like, or I should feel this way about X, Y, or Z because they're telling me to. But if I shut it off, what do I really feel? What do I really want out of relationships? Like, I'm not going to just let people tell me how I should feel. I'm going to think for myself and then make a decision based off of what I think and feel and believe based off of that.
So, yeah, I mentioned the media, you're agreeing. I think that a part of this negative cloud is being fueled by the media for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think anyone who agrees with that should turn off the TV,
Mm-hmm.
in a permanent way.
100%.
People like my mom, she watches the news every night. And I say, nothing's happening on the news. You don't need to watch it every night.
Yeah.
And to the extent that things are happening, it's not affecting you in a real way.
Yeah.
You don't need to know every murder that happened, in Chicago, don't pump yourself with that all the time. Because it's like, what are you going to do? Just lock yourself in your house to stay away from whatever?
Yeah.
So these messages, I worry is the media just trying to sell negativity because it sells, or is the media have an agenda to keep us in these cubicles? So this is a real question for me. And I think as a serious Christian, we have to take this on.
Yeah.
You cannot just go to your happy place and leave everyone else who's stuck in a trance with the media to figure it out and hope they find you.
Yeah.
You have to go and pull them out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that comes back to it being uncomfortable for people. It comes because I know even for my parents, they watch the news every single morning. And you're starting your day off with anxiety. You're starting your day off with fear. And I don't know, it's just like how, like, that's almost their comfort zone, is being in that place of fear and anxiety, because it's been conditioned, because it's been happening for so long. And until you like connect the fact that it's having an effect on your life in a real way, like, you're probably not going to stop watching it. You think that you need to be informed, but like, a question that I think it was from a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Phenomenal book. Yeah, it will convict you in ways. So beware. I will leave that caveat there. But he talked about how we years ago did not have access to knowing what's going on the other side of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we were meant to have all that knowledge, for the reason that it creates anxiety, fear, division, depression. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine watching I guess the best way to put it is like watching a documentary on, murder or something every single day. Like, can you imagine the headspace that you would be put in? But we do it because it's the news. You have to be informed. But like, to what level do you have to be informed? And who told you have to be informed about certain things? I don't know. That's my opinion.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? You want to understand what the podcast is about and what we're doing here is we need to draw a clear roadmap for where we are
Mhm.
and how do we get out.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I'm looking for is allies
Mhm.
to say, Alexi, I resonate with that. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
Right. So even your one-time participation right now is greatly
Mm.
appreciated, and there's no pressure.
Mhm.
But the hope is that we're gonna make some kind of conclusion and ally and work towards things. And I am looking for a church home.
Mhm.
So um, definitely I want that.
Yeah.
Um, I ask the question sometimes, like, do we need community bigger than church?
Mm.
And is church doing what they need to do to make to be true to their values?
Mm.
So I challenge church in that way.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of churches aren't.
Mhm.
And you know, if you're a good member of your church and you believe in your church, you have to advance the conversation at church.
Mhm.
You know, because you're probably not the only one, right?
Yeah.
And we need someone who's brave to
Mhm.
kind of bring it to the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mentioned the cultural diversity in our church, which I think has helped me grow tremendously as a person. One of the things they did when, police brutality and
Hmm.
like, I forget, for me, I feel like it started really coming to the forefront like a few years ago,
Hmm.
like with, the coverage of it and everything. And most churches, right? Like you don't talk about that stuff.
Right.
It's
divisive.
outside. We don't,
Yeah.
let's talk about Jesus. Jesus is great. Like let's just talk about Jesus. They did a panel one Sunday where there was a police and two African American men, and they shared their stories. And it got uncomfortable. There was tension, but they were having the conversation. And that blew me away because they're saying, hey, we might have difference in opinions. We will. We
Mhm.
have different experiences, but how can we still learn to love each other through those different experiences? And that just blew me away. And the same with when, all the elections were going on, they talked about them. How do we love people even though we're on opposite sides?
Hmm.
And that, like, I just appreciated that so much because where else do you learn how to do that?
Right.
You really don't. You
Right.
can't. Like, there's not anywhere that I've found that you can really learn how to do that. So that was really cool to me. That was really cool.
I feel that church has given itself in its own mission
Mhm.
that agenda to take on the community's needs,
Mhm.
to help those in need,
Yeah.
right? And I think the institution of church sometimes gets complacent because they don't want to lose their members, right? So it's kind of like, how do we keep the members and stay true to our mission?
Yeah.
And they need people inside the church to push the members
Mm.
and push the institution
Mm.
and the leadership. Yeah. Are you willing to take that on?
Personally,
Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
become more vocal in just like how I feel about certain things. I worked at the church part time. What was that? This like 6 months ago, 4 months ago. I worked there for a while to help with when like registration of tickets and stuff when there was limited capacity, and I just learned a lot about the dynamics of church and the staffing, and I like it grew my voice in being in a role where I saw what was going
Mhm.
on behind the scenes,
Right.
not that there was anything crazy or bad or good, whatever.
Right.
It
Of
just like
course.
gave me a different perspective.
Right.
And I think through that I was able to share when I was
That's politics.
yeah, when
For
I
sure.
was opposing or when I didn't understand something or what frustrated me, and had the space to do that again.
Getting involved strengthened your voice.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Do you think there's something that your church could be doing more of, or you'd like your church to be doing more of?
That's a good question. I would, if you asked me like 8 months ago, I probably would say I think they need to be multiplying the church in other areas because Central Jersey is like pretty dry. Like there's not a lot of thriving churches in Central Jersey.
Okay.
So they planted their first one in South Brunswick,
Mm.
which Ben and I checked out last week. And I think we're still considering if we're going to make the change there because it's closer, or stay at Princeton Alliance. But that's what I would have said. But now,
So plant more churches, reach more communities.
yeah.
You have something good in this box, spread that around, let people know that, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on board for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you willing to take the pulpit?
What do you mean?
Like get up and like preach and say something?
Yeah.
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 What does God say to you?
About what?
Like God has spoken to you on some level.
Yeah.
Like what has God said to you? Sorry if that's open.
No. There's I think one of the biggest things that I've just heard him say that I don't think I've experienced before is just the fact that, like, no matter what, I am loved. Yeah, that was huge. I never received that message before, I think.
So there's a certain level of judgment with church.
Yeah, there can
Right?
be. Yeah.
I remember in my church, I remember there was a teenage girl who got pregnant and had a kid, and supposedly she got kicked out of church. And kicked out doesn't mean she couldn't come anymore, but it's like this weird kind of thing where like your membership gets taken over. It was a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a certain level of judgment in church. And the idea is if you're a member or if you really, really believe, then you're not doing X, Y, and Z. Right? And I think there's the other side of that where the other side of that is if you're a real Christian, then you're making strides. Right? So if you're making strides, you're not indulging in sin. You're like, it's an uncomfortable kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yes, we're all sinners, but if you really believe, then you're making a stride. And if you're a member, you're supposed to be representing the church. So you can't be, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It's like there's two, I guess, like opposing beliefs, or there's like tension in that area of like where do I like fit in, or am I allowed to do X, Y, and Z, or am I not allowed to do X, Y, and Z? But in my experience, I think like when I encounter God and when I have encountered God, like he pushes me towards being more like him. And I believe like through his spirit that he'll enable me to become more like him. If I'm doing it in my own strength, I'll fall back to 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? And I've seen that happen. Even with my schedule, I'm like, oh, I got this, I can do this. And then all of a sudden I'm burnt out by Wednesday because I put too much on my plate. And meanwhile, he's like, hey, slow down. Like, listen, like, I'm with you in this. Like, let me show you where I want you instead of you just going out and doing everything under the sun. So I think there is like a tension that you bring up of like, I'm imperfect, I'm a human, I'm gonna sin, right? But if I'm not being held accountable in my sin and I'm not having anybody to point me closer to Jesus, then like I can just go behind the scenes. No one will know. I'll just come on Sundays, I'll put on a good show, I'll smile, I'll feel good, and then go back to doing what I was doing. And that's definitely how I lived my life the first 3 years of it. Yeah.
I think no one wants to live a life of sin. Right?
Yeah.
I think when you're lonely and isolated, you turn to the wrong things because they're band-aids. They give you a sense of relief, right? It's a shortcut, to instead of doing the hard work, you find a shortcut, that sin is just making a shortcut.
That's interesting. Sin is making a shortcut.
That's pretty much God is calling us to do the hard work. Pick up your cross and follow me, right? So picking up your cross and following me, it's like turning off TV, you know, getting rid of your phone, Instagram, and all of the nonsense stuff, and not focusing on materialism, giving constantly to people in your neighborhood, and reaching out, being an ally, forming bridges, doing that hard work.
Yeah.
But if you're dealing with your brokenness, then it's easy to cower, go home, watch Netflix, say, I'm tired, you know. And I can do 8 hours at work. That's my contribution to God. The rest of the day, I'll just we can default into that.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Anyone can have their own definition for what sin is, but I think sin is anything that deviates from God's plan, right? And I don't think, me personally, I don't have a condemnation for the sinner or why they sin. Because the idea is no one wants to sin.
Yeah.
You're sinning because there's a weakness, and we need to be built up. And when you are properly supported, you won't want to sin.
Yeah.
No one wants to eat 6 donuts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you have 100 friends and you're living a life of purpose and intentionality, you're not gonna be like, no, stop. I really want to just eat 6 donuts instead.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
That's a coping mechanism when your boss is treating you poorly and you're in this job you don't like and you have all of these burdens and not enough support, and you find a sense of comfort in food.
Yeah.
So you sneak a donut here and there, or you sneak a drink here and there. You binge watch your favorite show because the difficulty of making friends and
you painted that really well. Really well. I think it's sin that and it separates you from God. Anything that comes between you and God, that's like you said, deterring you from the path that He desires for you, because His desires are good and His desires are full of purpose. And just like binge watching Netflix for 8 hours, which I've done before. And I'm gonna sit, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like
that was my show.
What was it?
Mad Men.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Yeah. Shooter. Have you seen that? But yeah, Netflix for sure. But yeah, I used it as a numbing. Like whenever I watch unending episodes, it's because I'm numbing something or don't want to do procrastinating.
Don't get me wrong. Like taking a weekend off or taking a month off, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when your whole lifestyle for 6, 7, 8 years is just, I got stuck in a job and I would just crash and come home and watch Netflix. So I don't think God, this is my opinion. This is not based on anything. I don't think God says you are a sinner, so you don't go to heaven. You're a sinner, so I am going to punish you. That's not how God works. I think that's a part of the misinformation, right? I think sin is its own punishment. So when you eat donuts, you don't feel good. That's the punishment. God never says you ate that donut, here's your punishment. It's just the punishment is a natural karma, right? So some things don't have any physical punishment, so you kind of get away with it. Some sin has a reward, right? Like if you steal $100,000, now you don't have to work because you have money, kind of thing. So that person's like, they have the guilt, which is different from feeling it in your body. And there's pain with guilt for sure, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
So God doesn't come after sinners. And I think we need to also unlearn that.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I do have a lot of things with the church, and not necessarily the institution as a whole or anyone, but it's these kind of norms that are floating around that we have to kind of talk about them.
For sure.
Because it sounds like at some point you were affected by it and weighed down by it. And what I always say is there's someone out there who's 18, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, who's being lost because of some conservative value being put on them, and they can't find their way out of this.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had some of that mixed in there.
I would say so.
I don't know if you have a testimony or
Yeah, yeah. Just like I think again, I got the message growing up that I needed to be perfect in order to be loved by God.
something. Hmm.
Like that was the message. And I knew, like in my life, I knew I always wanted to be close to God. Like I had such a desire to know him
Hmm.
and to pray and to like it was always there. And I think growing up, I've had like a few encounters with him. Like I've had powerful experiences with God, but it was a very little, like 3 or 4 over the course of my year 0 through 22. Um, and then, yeah, I felt like I was never going to be good enough.
Hmm.
I was never going to attain this level of perfection I thought I needed in order to be acceptable to him. So I was like, okay, I remember having this conversation with him. I was like, hey, love you, but I'm going to do my own thing for a few years. I'll be back. Like the pride in me, like,
Hmm.
okay, God, I'll be like, that was me. So I did my own thing. I thought it was going to lead to more freedom. I thought it was going to lead to me feeling good, to finding more about myself, but it led to a place of complete emptiness for me. Like it was
Does that mean like hanging out with friends, clubbing, or something like that?
um honestly, I think from the outside my life looked pretty great. Like I had a lot of friends. I was very social. I would go to the gym. I would, you know, eat sushi. Like my life was good. I got good grades. Everything
Yeah.
was great. But internally, I was so distraught. I didn't know who I was. I kept trying to seek who I was through partying, through relationships with people that never cared for
Hmm.
me at all.
Right.
So like I remember waking up one morning and just like looking in the mirror and was just like shocked at who I saw because I couldn't see anyone. Like there was just I was like a shell of myself was
Hmm.
how like I describe it. Um, but I knew like God was the answer because even through college, I kept going to church trying to seek him or seek something because I
Right.
was so, but it kept leading me back to this place of guilt, leading me back to this place of falling back into my old sins and feeling like I was never good enough.
So you kind of had a perception that God was wanted you to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't perfect, so you didn't really see yourself with God or being what God wanted you to be. So you got off of that train
Yeah.
and you just started doing it your own way,
Mm-hmm.
which led you to follow things that wasn't really real to you.
Mm-hmm.
And because you got away from your core values, you
Yeah.
didn't see yourself anymore. So you're doing things that wasn't in line with who you thought you were.
Yeah.
And so you had trouble seeing who you thought you were in God, and you
Mm.
had trouble seeing who you thought you were outside of church.
Yeah.
So you were kind of in this place like, okay, I believe in God, but what do I do? So there's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of confusion.
Yeah, definitely a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just of like, I think I'm supposed to be happy because I'm doing all the things that everyone else is doing and they're happy.
Hmm.
Like everyone's, we're all partying, we're all having a great time. And then we wake up on Saturday morning and we recap and we're laughing and, can't believe I did X, Y, and Z. And then we're supposed to like just move on from that. Like we're not affected. Like it affected me. Like it hurt me deeply as it would hurt anybody if you're
Mhm.
continuing to live in a way that is so detrimental to your emotional, physical, like every aspect of your health is bad for. Um, and I think the problem is excess of it, right? Like you
Right.
said before, like if you're for years coming home and watching Netflix every night, like we have a problem.
Right.
We have a problem if we binge drink to the point where we can't remember what we did, said,
Right.
felt, drank. Like that's a problem.
Right.
And so I think having to face that reality was also hard to be like, I didn't think I'd ever become this person, but I am this person and I'm supposed to be happy, but I'm miserable. So where does that leave me? And no one else wants to talk about it because it's just what you do in college. It's the best
Exactly.
4 years of your life. That is a
Exactly.
lie. That is the biggest lie, I think, ever. One of the biggest lies.
The best 4 years of your life,
Mhm.
you party, you drink, you do all this wild stuff,
Yeah.
and there's this certain level of emptiness that goes along with that. But before you get to that stage, you look up to the idea of having this freedom. Then you have this freedom, you're doing all this wild stuff, and then you realize it's empty.
Mm-hmm. You nailed it.
So
Yeah.
I have a lot of things that I really want to hone in on, right? Because we're all going through it,
Yeah.
right? Different stages, right? Obviously, the middle-aged mom doesn't have to deal with that 18 to 22 stage of whatever,
Yeah.
but that is a real stage where some girls lose themselves, and guys too
Yeah.
lose themselves, and they're not able to come back. And I also know people in that stage who are very grounded in Christ
Yeah.
and spirituality and their discipline and these things. And some people who had no spirituality, but they had enough self-awareness to say, that feels empty. I drank and I, passed out. And a good friend of mine, he said when he went to eating clubs, he felt like everyone was just depressed and numbing themselves. And he was able to see that.
Wow.
Whereas everyone else is just trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And you're trying to fit in with people who are trying to fit in with you, and everyone's trying to fit in. So it's like you're playing this game where you're like, who has the power? And by the time you have the power, you want to act tough to keep the power. So you don't break the code and say, this sucks.
Can we all be honest?
Yeah.
Can we all be honest?
So no one's breaking that code, right? And yeah, I want to embody that work. Because I've been in that stage as well.
Yeah.
And I do think during the 18 to 22 age, here's the thing, right? Me personally, I knew I felt confident that the literal interpretations that I was given about the Bible was not God's true word. I felt confident. So I said, if the Bible literally says that, and that's not God's true word, then the Bible's wrong. And so I equated the Bible's wrong to what the Bible says about God, like I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Which I defaulted to like an atheism kind of thing. So I went through that stage and I was comfortable there. And at some point, I was able to reconcile and say, no, I know God's real. This, and that is not the right interpretation of either what it means or what it's trying to say or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But I came to a certainty about God, which wasn't based on what someone told me the book said or what the book literally said.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't need the book to tell me. I came to that certainty within myself. And like you're a coach, we always need a coach who's kind of been through it to say, yeah, this is a stage. There's a stage when you doubt everything. If you want to go out there and try binge drinking or X, Y, and Z, there's a lot of casual sex, right? If you want to go out there and try all these things, go for it. But I'm telling you, that's going to lead to you feeling empty. That's going to lead to you feeling unfulfilled. Let's look at, what other great thinkers who've questioned the literalness of the Bible, the literalness of what this means. And let's have that conversation instead of you just go numbing with other teenagers who are clueless.
Yeah.
And yes, you can have that. We can't stop you, but there is a place where you can do that. I'm all about providing that space.
Yeah, it almost sounds like mentorship. It's like a really great word that you're describing that's like multi-generational, right? Like you need people that have lived it and how they move past it and giving you that wise advice. You also need people on your own level. And then I think you need to also be able to teach someone that's not at your level as well. Like I think it's like a multi-generational or just multi-experiential approach that you need to be involved in some way, because if you've never been there, how can you know how to get there,
Right.
And then if you've already been past it, how can you give back to someone who isn't the position you were in?
Right.
Yeah.
Have you experienced the early church that the Bible talks about?
Yeah.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. Well, I think about Acts, right? And how small the community was. I think that again, it forces you to be real. It forces you to be accountable. It forces you to love people when it's hard too, because the closer you get, the more messy it gets.
Hmm.
And I think in the church, like in the early days too, there was so much messiness, there's so much like people sinning all the time and, trying to justify their sin. And Paul was just like, okay, I see what you're doing, but like, no, like this is how we're called to live. And this is the examples of it. But like, I, I think like, again, that young adults community is where I've learned to recognize that's how it's meant to be. We're going to have hard conversations, but that doesn't mean we don't love each other still. And it's actually, I think, less loving if you don't have those conversations and you keep sweeping things under the rug. But it's hard. It's not easy to be in tight knit community. I think I want it to, in my mind, be like, oh, it's all rainbows and butterflies. But like when you love people tangibly and vulnerably, it gets messy and it gets hard. But I just think about like having meals together, having people that are very different than you so that you can learn and you can grow. And just hearing people's hearts. I love that about small community. Like I love hearing what makes someone excited or what
Hmm.
fills them up or how they've seen God move in their life. Like that, I just, that's how I have experienced it.
Yeah, so I want to be a part of that. I want to experience that for myself and provide that to people
Yeah.
and help people find models to create that for themselves and
Mm.
get to a place where that's more normal.
Yeah.
And we've kind of beaten back the media and that dark cloud that's growing.
Mm.
And I feel like we have to take an active stance because that dark cloud is growing.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, compared to 30 years ago, we had people who were just doing whatever they want, but the church had a stronger presence, and you
Mm.
always knew that those people were living some sort of community, trying more. And we've lost a lot of faith in the community, in church,
Mhm.
in the last 30 years.
I'd agree.
And we really have to not just rebuild it to what it was. I think a lot of the old formality of church was boring.
Mm.
It lacked real engagement.
Yeah.
You kind of went there out of obligation. It was awkward. It wasn't really speaking to you. You
Mhm.
just sat there out of formality and then
Mhm.
you left.
Yeah.
I think we need church that really speaks to us like this.
Mhm.
And when you leave there, you're like, that was a great talk,
Yeah.
you know. So in the conversation with Jonah, I was saying that church is set up like school.
Mhm.
All the seats face one way, and the person in the front does all the talking. And I think if you really want church, it can't be that way.
Yeah.
So can you imagine you had a church with 5,000 members and all the seats weren't facing, it was like a circle kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm smiling because a few years ago was a youth leader at our church for the high schoolers, and we went to a conference in Florida, and it was like thousands of high school students worshiping Jesus together, and I was like, whoa, like when does this happen? But one of the pastors, I think she's a pastor or speaker, definitely an author, she gave that same example. And she took her pulpit or the stand, and she brought it to the center of the stadium, and she did it. And
Hmm.
she showed everybody what the early church she believed did. It might even say it, I don't know for sure in
Hmm.
scripture, but um, I think that promotes community, that promotes openness. No one's back is facing each other. Like that's such a good point. Yeah. And so like I don't think that church needs to be a building. Like you could have Bible studies at your home. You can have dinner parties where you don't even talk about God, but his presence is there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I think like that desire is so, we need more people desiring that same thing, and you just want to put more structure around it is what it sounds like. And like have like a, here's how we do it, let's do this together, have
Yeah.
one monthly dinner party or something like that. A friend of mine has this, I think one of her friends, is called like, it's a dinner party, but you have to invite someone else with you,
Hmm.
and then you all come together, so it's like a bunch of people that don't know each other are coming together, and it's like a once a month like dinner party or something like that. But you have to always bring someone different so that you just get to meet new people and have different conversations.
All right. So what are you getting out of all of this? Like, how are you putting this all together?
Um,
I really want us to think about, no pressure, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Just think about like some actionable steps.
Mm,
I'm definitely going to come to your church.
yeah.
Darlene, she wants us to try out, it might even be that church, want us to try out a new church. So we're still looking and
Yeah.
completely open.
Yeah.
We've been going to worship church with where the guy Jonah I mentioned.
Okay.
And I do feel a certain sense of obligation. Like I can't sit. It's like going home and watching Netflix.
Mhm.
I can't just go to a church that has great whatever and then just say that was it for me.
Mhm.
I really need to be in a place. I'm looking for that place where I can be a part of this thing, this
Yeah.
growing and this
Mm. Yeah. What town are you guys in? Princeton?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the new church that I was talking about that they planted, it's so small because they just started it. It's like 50 to 75 people.
Small's good.
Yeah. So that's where I feel like we were desiring. So we're gonna go check that out again this Sunday at 2. I can send you the information on it, but it's I think that's what I've been desiring more of. I have my young adults community, which is great. I feel like I'm really plugged in there and everything.
What's the age range?
It is 18 to 30 something, like pretty much college age to like,
Pre-marriage?
yeah. And no, there's people that are married
Yeah,
there
right.
and with kids, like it's
Yeah.
kind of wide in that range, but I feel like I'm craving like a little bit more wisdom and to be deeply connected with people who are older than me instead of just like, I hug you on Sundays, I talk to you for a brief minute or two. I want deep relationships with people of different ages.
Right.
So that's why I think I'm gonna go.
Well, I'm old, so
You're not old. Yeah, but I think I think an actionable step is just finding ways to be intentional about creating spaces for that to happen.
Yeah.
Like dinners, like inviting people into our home, maybe committing to like a once a month or twice a month, whatever is realistic for you and whoever you live with. But that I feel like is an easy way to start moving things in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been feeling a calling. 2015, before we left New York, I have to give them a shout out. Jason Wu started inviting me to house church.
Okay.
And they would play guitar and sing songs, and we would eat, and we'd have a Bible scripture kind of thing and talk about it. The Bible scripture part was like 25 minutes. The music part was probably 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But then the connection and sharing was like 2 hours. So it really felt like something, and that shout out, I really mean it. And I want to recreate that. There was something about the guitar. I don't play, but there's some, I like the songs that we, Good Father.
Yeah.
What genre is that?
Christian?
Modern
contemporary Christian.
Modern contemporary.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to that. And I liked it, Good Father, right? And then when we started going to worship church, so 2015 had that. 2016, we moved to Princeton. A student of Princeton, can't remember her name, I'll give her a shout out too, invited us to worship church. Worship church, entire worship is based on that contemporary stuff.
Okay.
So like now I have this whole playlist, really good songs that in some ways I think are better than hymns. Hymns, most of them are dry. Okay. So that kind of life, and I feel something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and by the time you're done with that, sharing some scripture and God words, and then the social time, I think that's house church. I want to keep that structure going, and also you need the church building where you go on Sunday morning. And there's something about being connected to that 2,000-year institution that to me feels right.
Yeah.
getting dressed up. And I think when church is too casual, this is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
When it's too casual, you kind of, like when you go to a wedding, you dress up, which makes it more official, So when you go to church, when it's too casual, like you just rolled out of bed, roll into church, then you roll to whatever. You need to kind of make it special.
Yeah.
So I like getting dressed up, going to church, everyone's dressed up. It's a special time.
Yeah.
Want to keep that going. And like having those relationships throughout the week, not just when it's house church or Sunday.
Yeah.
And like, I hate when people's like, I'm looking for a job, pray for me. Like, okay, can I see a resume on Tuesday? Can I,
Yeah.
like, let me introduce you to my cousin who knows X, Y. Not just pray for me, you know? Like, I'm having a hard time with my kid. Okay, I'll pray for you. How about bring him by? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, active and passive. Yeah, you need both, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've always been that person. And when I show up to someone else's group, I'm the guy who has that burning feeling. And I'm like, well, this is your group. I don't want to take over.
Yeah.
But it's burning to the point where I go to groups and I'm like, can I see your resume? Like, I'm not even good at resumes, but I'm not just going to passively pray for you. Like, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely agree. You have his power within you, or you say so that enables you to move. You need to also move and pray. Like, it's both. Yeah. Pray for me. Right. But what if he's here and you're here praying and he's saying, no, come right here. And then you receive what you're praying for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of parents and families who really need help. And we have to do a better job of being there for each other.
Yeah.
And our culture is normative to stay in your cubicle. So that parent is not going to say, hey, I need help. They're buying pizza like every week. Once a week is too much. And it's more than once a week. And these are good people who go to church, and the church doesn't have anything in place for them. So in my church, I'm like, all right, we're going to start a kitchen.
Yeah.
And you can sign up for dinner 5 nights a week. And, obviously there'd be a charge.
Yeah.
But now, instead of working 8 to 6 and then running to get pizza, stop by the church, we'll drop off, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome.
Family dinners, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
A pizza's $15. And if you were to buy that from a restaurant, it'd be $30, $40.
Yeah.
That's why they get pizza, not the healthy stuff. So we need institutions like church to really take on these things and be community hubs.
Yeah.
I don't have the organizational skills by myself, but I want to find a place that's passionate about these things, and we share those values, and we can live life together. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And I want it to be so impactful that it catches on and it's contagious and it's such. And that's the beginning of the revival, which I think will spread. Do you want to end with a prayer?
Sure.
I'm gonna have you do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Throw me in. God, thank you so much for this time together today to just have a soul chat, God. The ways that you just empower us with your spirit to draw closer to one another and to just experience the life that you desire for us, which is just living out just the ways that you walked on this earth, God, and the way that you just desire to have us live to the fullest. And I just thank you so much for Alexi's heart, God, and the way he just desires to see more of your love spread throughout this world, and just is so evidently seeking ways to watch you move and watch you grow and watch you just empower people with your spirit, not to live lives of lackluster or live lives that are boring or sedentary or just passive, God, but you just desire so much more for people. And I think you've given that vision to Alexi. So I just pray that you continue to give him that vision, continue to place people in his life that will allow that vision to come to fruition, Lord. And I just pray that him and his family find that church home wherever it is, God, that you would just help them grow and help them receive everything that they're desiring in a church family through the relationships and the ministries that are a part of that church. And wherever they go, I just pray that they will be blessed abundantly. And again, I just thank you for this time today and pray that you continue to stir up things in our hearts to bring more of the world that you see to this world. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks
I
for having
appreciate
me.
the time.
Yeah, that's great.
It wasn't so bad, right?
Not at all. I live for these. These are soul chats. I love them.
Exactly. Soul chat. Awesome. Yeah. Anything else? Did we miss anything? Anything you want to end with?
No, I think we covered it. We
Right.
really covered it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
It's awesome. Thank you for joining us as
Thank
well.
you.